Okay, Amanda, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. It's early and it's dark, and you're the first
say,
person I'm talking to with my scruffy voice.
Nice. What time is it there?
It's 7 a.m.
Okay. See, this is what never in my life did I think I would become a morning person. It's like this weird thing. I don't know if it happens with age, but definitely intention. Now I'm waking up at like 5:30, 6 o'clock without an alarm clock.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me years to get here, like a lot of intention. But I'm noticing the conversation we're going to have today around food and fitness, really, it's beyond food and fitness, and we'll probably talk about that as well. But feel amazing naked. Is that the title of your podcast?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Okay. So let's talk about how you even just got to that and kind of your fitness journey, your food journey. And I'm so intrigued by this because I'm so done. I mean, it's the beginning of the year. You see all these yo-yo dieting, like how to lose 20 pounds in 20 minutes type deal.
You and me both. Yes.
And it's so crippling and it's just hurting people. And everyone is so angry and frustrated. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about your fitness journey, your food journey, and how you got to where you are now with Feel Amazing Naked.
Yeah. So I think like most women, I had an early experience in my life that started my awareness of body image, right? That I was different, that there was this thing as like, fat and thin. And so I think that kind of became a magnet for me as wanting to seek this like perfect body image. And so I did lots of fad diets, went to college, struggled with food. I went through a lot of, emotional connection to food. It was my mechanism for like being away from home and being stressed, not really knowing like how to adult. And then got married and had kids, and I gained, 70 pounds with my children. And
like while you were pregnant?
Yeah, while I was pregnant with my first child, leading up to that pregnancy, I had a lot of miscarriages and a late term miscarriage. And so it was really emotional. At that point, I was like, I don't care what happens. I'm going to sit on the couch and eat bonbons and never move my body just so I can like grow this perfect baby. Mm-hmm. And literally I did that. I binge ate on like ice cream and I gained 70 pounds, just destroyed myself really and didn't care. And it really became for me a play after I was done having kids. I was on a mission to help cultivate a long-term approach for myself. And so I began connecting to what was happening in my mind, right? Like you said, those quick fixes were not lasting. I'd experimented enough, and I had some major health concerns that led me to looking at a more sustainable approach. So on the side, as I was going through my own journey, I started helping people with their journeys. And throughout that, I really became intrigued with, as you just said, why are we fascinated by quick fixes? And what's happening for people that's preventing them from really cultivating a long-term change? And I was using, several tools in my toolbox to help guide clients, but then I would notice they would taper off at some point, right? They'd have success for 3 to 6 months, even a year. And then all of a sudden it would be like, they'd come back, Amanda, I need help. And so I just really was like, I want to know what are the root causes. And so that's really where my work has transitioned is like, sure, you're telling me that, every day you hit the pantry at 4 o'clock because your kids are driving you freaking crazy, which I know a lot of your listeners can relate to. But is it the kids, or is it that you didn't fuel yourself properly for lunch and now you're hangry and you don't have a dinner plan and now you're going to eat whatever, you're going to feed the kids cereal. And so really what it all comes back to is some sort of time management or planning issue. That's really the root cause. So that's really where my work has gone now, is like, what is it that women need to do to truly feel amazing naked? Because I think we all want to feel that way. And it's dig at the root causes of what are holding us back.
Awesome. Can I ask you, and I have so many questions for you, but what was the first thing, like when you decided to like, I'm going to say get off the couch, but it wasn't literally get off the couch, but when I'm assuming your child was, you said after you had your children, you have 2 children, right? Mm-hmm. When your children were born and you were like, okay, now I'm going to do something about it. Like, what was your first step of action?
Okay, for me, I became violently sick after having my son. He was about 4 weeks old, maybe 5 weeks old, and I started having severe abdominal pain, like crippling, to the point I was passing out, throwing up, like just weird health stuff was happening. And I was trying to nurse him, and I was super sick. So my husband was like, I think we made 3 trips to the ER. And each time I went, they gave me this golden Band-Aid of, you're stressed, you're a new mom, you're stressed, eat crackers, eat bread, go on the brat diet. Here's some Prilosec to tame, the acid. And I was getting sicker. It was just like this spiral until I found a specialist who was like, I think you have some sort of gluten issue. Like, let's do some work and clean up your diet. And the moment I did that, it was like, and I wasn't, I wouldn't say I was a horrible eater, but I had a lot of the tendencies that many of us do, just not really working at a whole food driven diet, allowing a lot of things to be in the house that really weren't cultivating, how I wanted to feel. And so I would say that was the first domino.
Oh my God. Now I know why we connect so much.
Do you have that experience? Did you have that experience?
No, but it was just related to like the go.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Going and emerge and then being like,
Sure.
You have cancer. And I'm like, what the fuck? This whole food thing has been really interesting to me because I've talked about it a little bit on like my own personal journey with food, but you and I started working together, September-ish? Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I've been so attracted to your philosophy of like feel amazing naked for multiple reasons. But one, and you might as well say this out loud, but I always I said this to you. I see there's 2 extremes in the media: skinny, fit, probably not even healthy, right? And then now there is this movement towards like strong and whatever, but it's kind of like, it feels like athlete, like not everyday person. And then there's this opposite effect of like body confidence, like love yourself as you are. And I said to you, what if I don't love myself as I am? And I want to feel better in a bikini, but I also mentally understand that I don't want to do a fad diet to do that. Like I want it to be sustainable. And that is where I found this disconnect culturally of the all or nothing mentality. Like it's either, okay, it's bikini season, so you need to get ready for bikini season. I'm like, what if I just want to be healthy? But is healthy just mean I should accept where I'm at right now? Like, it's such a mind fuck. That's all I got to say. It's such a mind fuck. So like, how do you start to distinguish, like when a woman comes to you and she's like, okay, I have a terrible relationship with food. I have a terrible relationship with my body. I have no idea where to start. Like what's the first thing you do?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to start is with the mind. And so we kind of look and dive into, why do you carry like that story, or what are the beliefs that are holding you back? And a lot of the times it's that it has to be all or nothing. Like they're either in or they're out. And they've been telling themselves for so long that they have to go hard for 30 days to see progress. And so I really believe, and I focus, long-term consistency will always trump short-term intensity. And so when you're trying to cultivate, improve your relationship with food and your body image, you have to do a little bit at a time and like master those mindset shifts, those habits, before you begin to stack new things, on top. And so what I see so much of the time is, and it's right now, we're talking literally on January 2nd. I don't know exactly when this will come out, but like you said, open up your Instagram feed and it's flooded with short-term intensity. And the problem is you're going to reach burnout. There is no way that you can maintain that level of intensity for a long period of time. So you have to know yourself best, and each client's different, obviously, and you can push them in different directions, but it's truly looking at like, okay, what's going on in your brain, so that we can master kind of some of those issues first before we can even introduce you to any concepts related to food.
Do you see a direct correlation with food and how they live the rest of their life?
I would say it's 50-50, actually. Some people are masters of other things in their life, and food ends up being like their go-to mechanism to numb out and soothe. But I think that the all or nothing approach is something that I see more often, especially in women who are just driven and passionate. And I tend to like work with a lot of those kind of women as well. And so, there tends to be this go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden they'll like disappear, right? Communication dwindles and like, where'd
Yeah.
you go? And they're like, okay, I needed a reset. And I said, okay, if you feel like you need a reset, then we need to figure out why you need a reset. Because the goal is to not necessarily need a reset, right? It's just to find that consistency that you jive with over time.
Yeah. And I find everything is an unlearning, right? And one of the biggest lessons that I learned in 2018 was that I need to operate at a 70% level, like a 70% output. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, this is so much easier. Life is so much easier, right? Because when you're a go, go, go person, and you're an ambitious, it's like you got to slow down. And the current of life is going to it's not going to stop. People are not going to stop. The Instagram photos are not going to stop. And we don't realize like just because you're looking at it, the first time you can say, oh yeah, that's a fad diet. But then eventually it's like pinging through your brain. And I'm such an advocate of like silence, like let it all go, get it all away, and be like, what do I want? Where am I? What are my thoughts? What are my beliefs? But just simply changing small food habits. Another thing for me was focusing on how I want to feel, not the look. Like it's like the body is going to be the natural side effect of really honing in on the energy of food. And I'm such a big proponent of that, like energy.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. As you spoke, it was perfect timing because in my brain, it's the fact that we go, go, go and things aren't going to stop. We're trying to keep up with that constantly. And the issue is the more we try to keep up, the more disconnected we are with ourselves. And I see it in health all the time because what's the one way we want to measure our progress, like culturally? The scale, right? And so the moment I ask a client, and I don't prevent everyone from using a scale. I really believe that's personal. And some people, it's a detriment to them, right? They step on the scale and it totally dictates what their mind is going to do that day. So we have to work on that. But the more we rely on all these outside things, like the fad diets, the scale, Fitbit trackers, right? All the heart rate monitors, right? We're relying on all of these things. Guess what? You don't even know how to feel in a workout.
Yeah.
And so I had a discussion recently with the gym where I coach at. And it's like, why don't you wear a heart rate monitor? I'm like, well, is the heart rate monitor going to change my performance? Is it going to tell me how awesome I felt after I finished the workout? No, then I don't need it. And so I think there's so much benefit to going off of qualitative measures. And I try to push a lot of the people I work with to get back to that place. And they're very resistant to it, right? But it's like, look at your clothes. How'd you feel this morning? How was your sleep? Like, what are all of these things that are happening that are reconnecting you to your body? Like, what about your hunger cues? Have you checked in with those in the last couple of years? And so we can reconnect to those things that really, they're built-in mechanisms for success. So let's use them.
Yeah, I find everyone is, we've become very disconnected from ourselves, like from our body, from who we are. And I talk a lot about parenting and this aspect of like, well, how do I get my child to listen to me? Oh, they won't do this, they won't do that. And we're just constantly shaming ourselves like, oh, their behavior is a reflection of me. When the truth is, there's so much connection there, and yet we're just disconnected from it, right? Because we're go, 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 and we have to stop. We have to reassess. We have to think. But if we're not willing to do that, we won't know what it feels like. We won't know what it feels like when you've eaten too much, or you don't know, or when you're hungry, or like intuitively hungry, and it's not a craving. So really connecting back to your body. So what do you say to someone who is so done and they just want to give up, and they're like, there is no other hope. There is no other way. Like, I don't understand. Is my relationship with food too far gone? That's one relationship that you cannot divorce.
True.
You
It's
have
sticking
to,
with you.
yeah, you have to, it's like, you know, you can push people out of your life, but you can't do that to food.
Right. I think, well, I think it was The Goddess Revolution. I don't know if you've read that book, but I think she uses the quote in there, you know, the more we diet, the more out of control we become. And I think that that's like the bottom, right? You've dieted so much, you've hit rock bottom, and it's a cultural shift. It is, like I said before, the first thing that that person needs to understand and really look at is, why are they seeking a diet? What is it about a dieting approach that has them keep, you know, continually coming back? And my belief is that often it's a lack of trust in ourselves.
Yeah.
And we don't trust our knowledge. We don't trust our bodies. We don't trust our mind. And we tell ourselves the story that we can't control ourselves around food. We're going to use it to, help our emotional connection to whatever's happening, ease stress, or sometimes it's just analysis paralysis. They literally are just so confused by all the cultural, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but what's out there, that they're like, oh crap, I don't want to eat. And so there's such an ingrained fear and lack of trust that you have to just nurture them along to help them begin to trust food again, which seems crazy, right? Like you said, it's a relationship you can't divorce. So it's usually one of those two spectrums. It's like an extreme scarce, they're scared of food because they don't know what to do, or they just have to reconnect and trust themselves, or they go hand in hand.
So this is interesting because I'm reflecting on my relationship with food, and previously it was like I didn't know how to eat. So growing up, we had no money, and my mother, it was like bologna sandwiches, like that was her thing, or chicken on like lettuce. And so it was because she was so disconnected to food. And so she thought, oh, this is healthy, chicken, lettuce. And finally I was just like angry at chicken and lettuce and bologna sandwiches. So it was like, not enough. So there was never quality in my relation. I didn't grow up in a family where there's like culture and lots of food and stuff. So it was just like not enough. So through my teens, and it's funny because I watched my oldest, he's almost 14, and I started implementing this thing where he actually has to have a shake before he goes to school or he can't go to hockey. Like it's like, you don't do this. Like that's the only thing I require of you is you have to eat, because he's an asshole when he doesn't eat. So just like we all are, right? And I'm watching that, and for him, the control is he can restrict his food. And I'm watching him do this, and like he has control over this, but people don't understand the rabbit hole you can go down when you're just not nurturing your body. It's like you go on a road trip, you fill the gas tank. I have no idea why as people, we believe that like we could go all day and not put any gas in our tank. So then when I became a mother, again, it was restriction, unconscious restriction, just from a learned behavior. And that led to like severe anxiety and depression. And nobody picked up on like, how is your nutrition? Or a doctor might have said, no, a doctor never said this to me, but actually that's a whole nother conversation, but might have said, you need to look at your nutrition. And that is an overwhelming process in itself. Like I remember how difficult it used to feel to like make a smoothie. I'm like, what do I put in this smoothie?
Yeah.
And then when I was sick, the dietitian told me to eat McDonald's for the calories. Like that was their wisdom. And so I said to her, you're an idiot. If you try to give me like any more of that Ensure, like I'm just going to vomit all over you, because I was so annoyed. Because I did get a little bit of awareness at that point, and it was just like vegetables are bad for you. That was the message because of the bacteria that was on them.
Sure.
So this whole relationship, it's like bad, no, restrict, not enough, lack. Right? You hear this all the time. It's so expensive to eat healthy, which we should have a little conversation about that too.
Anyways, yeah.
Because yes, So then now getting to this space where what I'm finding is it's really just trusting myself and knowing that everything in the past was from a place of lack. And now it doesn't need to be abundant. It doesn't need to be perfect. And in this blueprint of like day 1, day 2, day 3, eat this. Oh, you're 20 minutes too late for this meal. It's like, just fucking eat it. You're hungry, eat it. So the reason why I'm telling you this is because I don't think the only reason why I never looked at food when I was younger is because I was considered skinny. And then after I got sick, I was considered, what did they call me? Skinny fat. I have so much fat around my organs. So, but I look skinny on the outside, and my adrenals and everything are all fucked now. But anyways, that's another conversation. But let's talk about, it's too expensive to eat healthy.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's crap. And I wrote a blog post about this very thing because I talk about, I just had a girl in my program, actually, she had a hard time making the investment, of course. And she has a goal of, over 70 pounds of weight loss, and she's crushing it. But she said to me too, I had no idea that by starting working with you, I would be saving the amount of money I am on our monthly grocery budget, because you have taught me how to plan. You've taught me now how to backwards design my week. We're both huge on time management. And by doing that, she's now grocery shopping. Their family's eating out far less. She was using going out to lunch with her child as a means of connection with him. So they were spending multiple lunches out together. And so she's like, this already paid for itself and then some, because this is how much I'm cutting out of my monthly grocery budget. But the reality is going to McDonald's to feed a family of 4 is freaking expensive.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I wish I would have pulled that up, but it's like $20, right? Well, I can take my family and get, stuff to make sloppy joes, a pound of lean ground turkey, some sweet potatoes, and a vegetable for probably less than $12. Mm-hmm. And so it's a limiting belief. It's a story we tell ourselves to really justify poor eating habits, because we don't know how to make homemade real food. And I believe cooking is the number one most beneficial skill. Cooking and planning, 2 things that will completely change your life, to improve your health or achieve weight loss, whatever you're after. And so I think that it is the story we tell ourselves a lot, is that eating healthy is expensive.
What's interesting is I've been observing, we were on vacation for a few weeks, and it's like sometimes when you're on vacation, we did have a kitchen and we cooked a lot, but where we were, Barbados, the food is so expensive. Buying a melon was $10 American. It was ridiculous. So we would buy what we needed and we would cook as much as possible. But if we did go out somewhere because we didn't meal prep or whatever, super, super expensive. After a while, you just don't want to eat out all the time. I don't know about everyone else, but my kids are at an age now where it's okay, but you don't actually enjoy the food as much when you're out in public with your children. It's just feed them to keep them alive, but there's no enjoyment there.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
So, what I've noticed is I'm observing and watching my children when they're can we go to Tim Hortons, which is, the Canadian version of Starbucks. Okay. Everyone loves Tim Hortons. That's what all the Canadians do. So I'm no. And I know some other people will bring them there as a little treat, but I'm watching my kids go, can we go here? Can we go here? Can we go here? We get in the car and we're going somewhere to run an errand. And one of their questions is, can we stop for food? And I say no a lot. And what I'm noticing is the guilt that sometimes I have because I say no. So we have that as women all the time, as mothers, right? No, 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 no. So I feel guilty. But I'm also watching these food patterns in my children of we're in the car, so we have to eat. What does this mean? And who started this? Oh, you're going to hockey, so you have to stop at Tim Hortons. That's a very Canadian thing to do. But seriously, and how is this going to carry into adulthood when it's literally just, can I have another sugar? More sugar, please, more sugar. And it's really sad because I think it's unconscious. And if the busier we are, the less we realize we're making these decisions and that our children are picking this up.
I agree. I'm so amped up on this question actually, because it's all about preparation. And so here's what I believe is that most people don't carry a proactive, when they are waking up, they are not thinking about how am I going to fuel my day and my life, right? So food is a very reactive piece of their life. And I believe that is totally opposite of what it needs to be. Like kind of one of the philosophies I teach is you should know today what you're eating tomorrow. Does that mean that you are like planning it out strategically? Well, it could be like if you're if you're an athlete that's training for something specific, your needs are different than you and I. But today I should know what my food is going to look like tomorrow. Generally speaking, I know I have some meals planned for dinners. I have my refrigerator stocked with lunch options and breakfast. So if we don't have that, then we are constantly playing reaction, the reactive game to life. So we swing by through the drive-thrus. Something simple as like we talked about before, like having a really healthy snack always in our purse. So as a mom, I carry 3 bars around. Usually it's 3 RX bars because that's my favorite. 1 for me and 2 for the kids. So that if there's true hunger and we're, out longer than we expected, then I can say, here's a healthy snack. We don't stop. If we go out, it's intentional dinner. Typically, we know it's a planned thing, so that those behaviors don't end up happening. Because it is true, you dictate that as a parent, and that becomes an expectation of our children. And when we say no, we feel like we're failing as parents, when really we're doing the best thing we possibly can by teaching them to be more proactive in how they feel and what's at their fingertips to enjoy.
So I sent you a message the other day because that exact thing happened to me where I didn't plan. I was longer than expected. And then we ended up eating really shit food. And I was down and out the rest of the day, severe migraine, slept, even had a migraine. Like it was like, I don't drink, but it felt like a hangover. Like it was awful. So I said, okay, universe, I'm listening. This is contrast. I'm a huge advocate of contrast, right? It's like, what don't you want in your life? What am I going to do about it? And then you learn, the mistakes and you pick up and you keep going. But I also feel that I'm in this space now where I want to work on this. It's like, those little, like the breadcrumbs are there. Like people just aren't ready. It's like you're getting closer and closer and closer to the wall. So do you believe and I'm sure you've worked with people like this, but when people are just ready to solve the problem versus not ready, it's like you can want something, but you're not really committed to change. What's your perspective about that?
I agree with it 100%. I've had clients that have started with me and I can feel like, they're not committed to the process. But I'm actually pulling up a quote. I'm reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
No, I've been hearing him more and more.
Oh my gosh, I heard him on a podcast. It was great, and I was on my next book list. But I think the part that's missing for people is like for this to become a habit for you, right? You have to create the behavior changes that become a part of your identity. And so there is a shift. There is a difference in, so I'll give the example of something that we talked about in my group recently, is I had a girl that said, like, I am not a runner. She desperately wants to run, but she says, I am not a runner. So what happens if we tweak that a little bit and I am becoming a runner, right? It's a difference, although subtle, of actually becoming that person and taking on those behaviors and that identity so that you actually begin to feel proud, right? And you don't want it any other way. And I think the same is true of food. Like for me, eating healthy is part of my identity. It feels so good. I don't want to feel crappy. It's kind of like drinking. Like I drink wine or whatever, and I'll have drinks with friends. But as I've gotten older, it's like my boundaries are even harder because I love feeling good so much. I don't want to feel any other way. That's part of who I am. And so I think it takes time for those behaviors to actually become a part of your identity, just like in parenting, like you talk about. So I think you're there. So now it's about practicing those behaviors so frequently and so consistently that they are you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I'll tell you one thing that I think used to sabotage me, and this is something I'm definitely overcoming in 2019. Oh shit, I didn't lose that part, but I was going to say something else. So maybe I think because it's so incremental, it's those little subtle shifts, right? Like everyone has 24 hours in a day. Everyone can actually eat differently. Like it doesn't have to be the same quote unquote meal plan or diet. I don't like the word diet, but like meal plan for everybody else, same foods. Like everybody is going to react differently to certain types of foods. So it's just like, this is a conscious choice to put this in my mouth rather than something else in my mouth. And when you are like that ambitious, go, 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 like you're like, oh, one little slip up isn't going to make a difference. But it's those little tiny habits. One thing that I love, I forget where I heard this quote, but I was talking about manifesting. I said, we're always manifesting. We're either manifesting what we don't want in our lives or what we do want, but we are all manifestors, right? So it's the choices that we make on a daily basis. And it's those little subtle shifts. So what I've noticed is, if I say to myself like, oh, I want chips, which I'm giving up chips in 2019, because that is like worse than alcohol for me. I'm like, okay, Heather, you have to have like a liter of water and like eat this little bowl of like veggies before you can have the chips. And then usually I don't want the chips anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's just making those, like convincing myself, like you can have the chips, but you have to do this and this first. And that I really know that I'm not going to have the chips, but I have to like convince myself. So it's these freaking mind games. Another thing, and this is what I've personally noticed about myself, is feel amazing naked. When I start feeling really good in my body, I sabotage it. And like, I feel great. I feel light. I can start to feel like my body changing a little bit, and then I sabotage it. And I think that's just like upper limit problems, like going to the next level. When I can, in my physical body, when that's changing, people can see me, right? People can see that. People start to make comments. When, that might be happening in my bank account, that might be happening behind closed doors, that might be happening in my mindset. Nobody can see that. So I think it's just another limiting belief coming to the surface. So there's so much more than the actual food and the exercise. There's the deeper stuff that needs to be cleared out too.
I agree. And I think that happened. I mean, I have that happen to clients as well. And two things really come to mind is that we're afraid to really step into our own light or our potential, but we also tell ourselves a story that it can't be easy, that it's not possible. And I believe that food and weight loss can be totally easy. You just have to break it into bite-sized pieces instead of trying to drink from a fire hose. But everything around us tells us that it's not easy, and we have to be so meticulous to see progress. But imagine if you lost 1 pound a week for an entire year, if you had that amount to lose. That's freaking amazing. And no, you didn't lose it in 2 months, but I guarantee you if you lost 52 pounds in 2 months, it will be right back. And then some, because it wasn't a sustainable approach. So I think it is identifying like what's going on in your brain that's really preventing you from hanging on to that consistency.
Yeah. And then at the end of the year being like, wow, I lost 52 pounds instead of I didn't lose anything, right? It's that tortoise in the hare, progress, not perfection, and combating it. And so I find it's like the slowing down to speeding up. It's all the same shit. And transferring, when you said this is easy, you can do this. I was thinking about like what I teach women about how you can do that in your life. I'm like, well, I'm really good at that and I've mastered that. So it's just transferring the skill over to food and fitness.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we have a short conversation about fitness? Because first of all, old Heather, and when I say old Heather, like last year or 2 years ago, go to the gym, work out for 3 hours, which I never did, but like go, physical fitness. And then you eat shit. Your body never changes. Your life doesn't change. What I'm working on now is mastering my food and giving myself permission to move my body every day, but not like kill myself.
Yes. I think that the majority of your energy should be put on food. 80% food, 20% fitness is really what I believe. And as women, what we've seen so much is that cardio should be our main focal point. Like that's what creates weight loss. And so I see women and work with women all the time that are trying to out cardio their diet, and they're never going to win doing that. It's just a vicious cycle. And we're so ingrained to have that reward, love-hate relationship. Like, I overate, so then I'm going to overtrain to justify it.
Mm-hmm.
And your body doesn't like that. Like, your body has this settling point. Your body really only wants to do the bare minimum. It wants to just be normal. It doesn't want excess energy, right? Doesn't want you to overeat, and really doesn't want you to undereat. And so there's built-in cues, right? When you're hungry, it's telling you, you need a little bit more nourishment. When you're full, it's telling you stop. And so it wants to be at this level of settling point. So I think that one of the things as women we could do is work on greater recovery, spend less time training, and embed multiple days of rest in a week. Focusing on sleep is huge, like super quality sleep. I can actually see, like physically see, when people are not getting sleep, the scale will uptick if they're looking at the scale tremendously, and they'll physically feel bloated and puffy. And then the moment sleep starts to come back to a regular pattern, maybe they were sick or their children are small or whatever the case is, it's like automatic. So I think that the fitness part, I think that many women would benefit from more regular resistance training. I mean, that's the studies out there just show such a tremendous impact from just hitting weights without cardio. We're afraid we're going to bulk up, but it takes a tremendous amount of effort for that to happen. So I guess that's my long-winded response to that question.
So what is your perspective? So men and women, obviously very different bodies, very different hormones, things like that. They have to eat differently, train differently, live their lives differently.
I don't think so. I think you could be on the same training program as your husband and experience totally different outcomes. Mm-hmm. Obviously, how much they need to eat is all dependent upon size and shape and, health history and, a few other markers that I think are important. But because our hormones are different and higher levels of testosterone in men, muscle growth is a little bit easier. So all the more reason then as women, we shouldn't be fearful of lifting heavy weights. And I'm not talking CrossFitting. I'm just talking about going to the gym and getting under loaded weights to benefit the metabolic efforts, by increasing, tension, so that, remember, muscle grows where tension's at, and we want that to happen so we can experience growth. And so many women are like, I want to get toned, but that really doesn't exist, right? That's just like this figment of what we see in women. Like they're the fear of using weights as a mechanism to change composition is high in a lot of women, because they don't want to look like these women they see with these bulging muscles who are training tremendous amounts and eating high volumes of food. So it's really unrealistic comparison.
I love lifting weights. Like, I used to do CrossFit, and now I don't. And I just work out solely from home, and I use those Bowflex, remember those weights that you can change?
Yep. Change the resistance of.
Yeah. And I fucking love it. Like, and I don't have to do a lot. It could be like 10 minutes and just doing like a few different exercises. I feel so good all day. And the next day when I have like the extra DOMs, like the delayed onset, I'm like, yes, like I just fucking love it. And then I have a few of those little resistance bands and, just get my glutes going and stuff like that. It's, biggest belief and mindset change for me was like, I'm like, this is too easy. This is too easy. Like I must be doing something wrong. But it's funny because I hear a lot of women who work with me do that. Like, they're like, Heather, this is too easy. Like, everyone else is struggling around me. Why is this easy? And I'm like, yes, this is the secret to quote unquote success or happiness. Like, we're overcomplicating it.
I agree. And one thing to add on to fitness too is I am such a proponent of doing something you love. And you just said that is we can't go do CrossFit because our girlfriend loves it and she experiences great results from it. Or we can't do Zumba, or we can't do XYZ, whatever cycle. We have to do what we love. And the reason I believe is because that's sustainable and you're going to stick to it. So if you going into your basement and lifting your Bowflex weights is something that you're going to do, then heck yes. And you just stick with the things. And I love diversity personally. I think mixing it up brings just like in the kitchen, right? Like variety helps to avoid monotony. And if we're starting to feel like our gym routine is boring, then we're less likely to show up for it. So spice it up, add in new options, but it has to be something that you personally enjoy. Otherwise you're not going to show up for it.
Yeah. And I agree. And I would have never, even this time last year, wouldn't have been able to work out at home, to do anything because no one was watching me. So I wouldn't have been motivated to do it. And it's a journey to get there. And I think that's a really good point of like, whatever you're attracted to right now. Like I physically had to hire somebody, you know, for accountability to like go to the gym and do that. And I learned a lot through that process. And then it was like, okay, now I want to be able to make this sustainable, right? It was like I could work out at a gym or CrossFit or go to yoga class or whatever, but I couldn't transfer that skill if I was in a hotel room or if I was on vacation with my family. And I really wanted to, because I wanted to make it a daily thing and I didn't want to be this all or nothing. So it's like, just start where you are and go, what do I need right now? And if that's like going for a walk every day, then do that. I think a lot of people, from my understanding, the research behind it, I mean, people underestimate the value of just daily walking.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many studies about like getting out and walking for 5. I just saw another, even for pregnancy, like the value of walking 3 miles 5 times a week for pregnancy was like tremendous. So I think there's some great benefits just to the simplicity of it. But I will say too, oftentimes what women say they want in themselves is not in alignment with the training that they are doing. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's somebody to me that's saying, you know, I want to run a half marathon, but they're lifting weights 4 times a week, or vice versa. I want to add muscle, but all they're doing is cardio. And so there's this divergence when you're trying to change yourself. I think there's like skill, there's strategy, and there's mindset work that needs to happen. Right. And so you have to really look and evaluate all 3 of them and kind of see like, where are you at in this puzzle? Is if what you're saying you want isn't matched by your actions, then how can you maybe shift your training a little bit so that it is, or they do, you know, come in alignment with one another.
And I'm just going to point out the pink elephant in the room. You need to educate yourself. We need to stop believing that we need to know it all ourselves. Like that is why it is so important. Again, investment wise, and I don't just mean financial investment, like just invest your time in becoming educated. So whether that is listening to podcasts or reading books or things like that, yes, you will eventually have to invest money. And I'm a huge proponent of having like mentorship and coaches and things like that. Cause it's like, okay, what am I struggling with? I'm going to run towards that. Who can help me with that? And just learn. And you don't need to do it all at once. But it's just so empowering to be able to get to that point, because exactly, you think, oh, I want to run a marathon. Okay, I'm going to do this. Meanwhile, that's not in alignment, and it's okay. You're not supposed to know that, but you just need to ask somebody who is an expert in that area. Absolutely. So Amanda, somebody wants to learn more about you. So you have a 7-day challenge, you have a program coming up, your podcast. What do you talk a lot about on your podcast? Like, how's your podcast structured?
Yeah, so I do both, just my own, solo cast talking about topics relevant, fitness, health, sex, confidence, whatever it is that women I think need to hear so they feel more amazing naked. But then I invite guests on as well that can give some sort of, that areas where I am not an expert, come on and share just some of the thinking and some of the mindset shifts, and it's very organic conversation, but I want like tangible take homes that the girls listening can implement right away.
Perfect. So the podcast is called Feel Amazing Naked. Mm-hmm. Awesome. You have a free 7-day challenge. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I really feel that it is part strategy, skill, and mindset. That's like the perfect combination for women to find lasting success. So in the 7-day challenge, I'd say it's just a little sneak peek on, all aspects of whole body health and fitness, and mindset that help kind of give a little springboard into success. And along with that, you get access to the private community to share some of the, aha moments that you have, that the girls going through the challenge have as well.
Awesome. And you have a coaching program. Talk about that.
Yeah, the coaching program is it's a blend of one-on-one work and a group platform. So I guide you depending on where your specific goals are. And then I also bring in outside experts who teach master classes on the content that's relevant to the group as we're going through. So it's pretty powerful because you're surrounded by women, like-minded, same struggles, sharing all like the juicy stuff that's happening through transformation. And it's extremely powerful. In that program, you can go to feelamazingnaked.com and really find all those things that you talked about.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm grateful for you. This is a fun discussion. Thank you for having me.
Yay. We can have it again sometime soon.